time for Sports Tonight with EG and BG.
What's up?
We're doing this tonight. Brett and Emily. You don't need last names because we already know I don't know them. I'm just kidding. Gagnon and Gilbert, okay?
I would hope you know yours. I'm glad you know mine.
We're at a whole new level now, Brett. I mean, this is like,
It only took almost a year of working together, but you finally got my last name down.
I mean, who says a full name anymore?
You do.
You know, I mean, so now now I've been forced to say it and learn it and love it. But now I want to call you BG, so that's where we're at.
I like that. I like BG.
Yesterday we got started with the Braves, so it's only right that we continue this role that we're on this week and continue with starting with the Braves. They're our leadoff story tonight. Yesterday we weren't talking so nicely about them, but today we're going to speak very good about the Atlanta Braves. That's because they completely demolished the AL West leading Rangers on their turf, 12-0, shut them out. What an offensive performance by the Braves, an offensive explosion, something they needed because they were looking too hot offensively over the weekend when they were swept in my home country of Canada. The Blue Jays did that. The Rangers aren't doing that right now, and that's because the Braves showed up to play. Yesterday's news was awful about Kyle Wright on the 60-day IL now instead of the 50-day IL. No, Kyle Wright. And,
oh, no, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. So that wasn't the news the Braves wanted, but they turned a negative into a positive, went out there and got the win. Charlie Morton, okay, he had a great performance in Texas. So I know you're the baseball guy in this group, but major props to you, Braves. What a way to forget the fact that you were on a 4-game losing streak and start anew in Texas.
Yeah, I mean, I think some fans were not panicking, but, you know, fans are wishy-washy. Yeah, fans are fans. So when you get swept, when you've lost 4 in a row, you know, people start to overreact a little bit, get a little freaked out. Blue Jays are a good team. It's tough to win on the road. Rangers are also a good team, and they went in there last night and hit them in the mouth. I mean, the Braves are still one of the best teams in baseball, arguably the best. I know the Rays have looked good, but the Braves have looked just as good over the past, month or so. And I mean, last night was everything you need to win a game. Great pitching, great hitting. They got guys on base, and then what did they do? They hit home runs to bring them in. 5 2-run homers, tied for an MLB record. That's what this team does best. They can smash the ball, and that's not changing. It's baseball. You're going to have little slumps here and there, but this team can break out of it. It was good to see them get a big statement win last night, and they'll try to continue that tonight. They got Schuster on the mound tonight, so, they're still not healthy in that starting rotation, which was part of their problem when they lost those 3 games up in Canada. But they're going to get healthy eventually, and even with this, middling injured rotation, they can still hit enough to get a bunch of wins, obviously.
And I said that yesterday, I said this yesterday, and I want to get your opinion. They're on the road right now, 3-game set, 2 to go out of the 3, and then they're going to come home for 10 games. You got Seattle, then the Dodgers, and then the Phillies coming to town. I'm looking forward to the Dodgers and Phillies series. Seattle, I'm not so much looking forward to it. They're just a mediocre team this season.
They're exciting, though. They're still exciting. They haven't quite lived up to what we've wanted so far, but I think they're a good team.
See, baseball man, you're the baseball guy.
Yeah.
When I look at them on paper, because I haven't really watched them, I'm like, meh. But I will take your word for it. We'll see what happens when they come home, when the Braves come home and host them. But what an exciting 10-game stretch at home, especially with the Dodgers, Freddie Freeman coming back, and then the Phillies, who are behind the Braves. Even though they're 6 games behind the Braves, still always an intense series that could mean something eventually. So for me, I'm super, super jacked about the upcoming games coming to Truist Park.
Yeah, no, that's going to be a really fun stretch. You got a lot of stars coming to town. Like you said, obviously Freddie coming back home. Seattle's got a bunch of guys that everyone wants to see, Julio Rodriguez. And then, that Philly series. I mean, the Braves are up 6 right now, but I'm not saying this will happen, but if you're a Phillies fan, you're looking at that and saying, 3 games, we sweep them. All of a sudden, we're down 3, and, that's close. We can catch you. So, obviously, that's going to be a huge series. And NL East games are always just so fun. This division has been so tight for years and years and years. It's really developed some intense rivalries. That one's going to be a lot of fun. Anytime Bryce Harper is in a divisional game, it's going to be a little fiery.
And not to mention, the Braves are going to bring their A game against the Phillies because of what happened last season. in the postseason.
Yeah, this will be
the first time.
I was going to say, I don't believe they've played yet. So,
yeah,
this will be the first time they've played since then. So, obviously, there's going to be some emotions there.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. The Braves haven't played as well at home this season as they have in years past. But, again, it's still very early. And I mean, playing on the road, well, I don't know. Sometimes I would take that over home because at least you can handle the away crowds and the pressure. So we'll see what that looks like coming up. But I'm super, super excited. Braves, get it done against the Rangers and come home with some confidence and turn things around. And again, there's plenty of games to do that. So I'm not terribly worried.
No, and you shouldn't be. And even if, and this is the last thing I'll say and then we can move on, Braves fans, if you're listening, that is a tough stretch coming up with the Rangers, Seattle, and the Dodgers. Fun games, but a lot of good teams. But even if you kind of stumble there, maybe you split those, maybe you go 500. Good news, June looks a lot easier. You start with the Oakland A's, who have been maybe the worst team we've ever seen take a baseball field.
I mean, there's one person that shows up to their games.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, no, it's
players' families aren't even going to games anymore.
No, it's horrendous. I mean, they're being compared against teams called the Spiders from the 1880s. If you ever hear the Spiders brought up, that's bad news.
Run.
And then they play the Diamondbacks, who have actually been pretty good, the Mets, who have been struggling, the Nationals, who have been awful, the Tigers, who have been awful, the Rockies, who are bad, a series against the Philadelphia Phillies, and then a series against the Reds, who have been awful. So June is looking a lot easier. That might be a month where you can look to beat up on some bad teams and kind of pad that division lead a little bit.
I like the sound of that. I really, really do. All right, so you ready? You ready, baseball man? Can we move on?
I hope you're ready because I'm not going to have a ton to say on this one. I'm going to be honest, but I'll set you up. What's going on with Atlanta United?
Yeah, 4 straight losses, and it pains me to say that because they started the season as probably the hottest team in the MLS. It felt very like 2018-ish team. It felt like they were back to the glory days of winning when Tata Martino was here, and they won the MLS Cup only in the second season of their existence. I mean, back then, Brett, you weren't here. Were you in Nashville then?
I was in Nashville, yeah.
This whole city was all about Atlanta United. And the best thing about that team is the fact that it brings so many people together. I mean, honestly, that soccer team has brought so many people from so many walks of life, cultures together in one venue at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and it's unreal. They pack that place out. They jump, they shout, they have chants, they have signs. I haven't seen more dedicated fans than the ones that Atlanta United has.
They may have the most
dedicated. Have you been to a match?
I have not yet. It's on my bucket list, but I was going to say they may have the most dedicated fan base in that building.
I always thought, well, yes, if you're comparing that fan base to the Falcons fan base, then yes, you're absolutely accurate. They stay on their feet for the whole time. Like literally.
No, I've seen plenty of videos. I've watched games. I mean, it looks electric. I do want to go to one this year.
They're fun. I call it like college football games on crack. I really, really do. I would rather be at a college football game, but if you just want to go somewhere and like quick and dirty, because those games or those matches, I should say, they're so fast.
Yeah.
A college football game, you're committed to an entire day. For soccer, it's like a couple hours and you're home already, and that's the beauty of it. And that's kind of how the game, was made. You can bring a kid to a game and they won't completely lose interest right away. So that's nor here nor there. Atlanta United right now, you guys aren't doing very well. So you started out the season hot, and I was reminiscing about the good days. And then you've lost 4 straight, and your coach, Gonzalo Pineda, over the weekend during that loss against Charlotte, they lost 3-1 to Charlotte. That was their 4th loss in a row. He said during a press conference, the post-match press conference, that he felt like the other team wanted it more than his team. And I don't think players like that too much.
Yeah.
If that's your coach saying that about you, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and, have some truths there. But today he kind of, I don't want to say backtracked, but he did say that he did not like his team's urgency, and that's what he was trying to say, is that he wants his team to be more urgent, and that's why they were winning matches at the beginning of the season, is because they played with urgency. So I want to say that he backtracked a little, and that's okay. All right, that's okay to say. If that's how he felt Saturday night after a loss 4 in a row, he felt like the other team wanted it more than his team, so be it. That's how he felt, and I'm okay with that. I have no problem with it. Coaches sometimes have to tell ugly truths to get their players' attentions, and if players are now paying attention, like, let's go out there and beat Colorado tomorrow, again at Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Do you think that, again, I'm an outside soccer guy. I'm not very plugged into the MLS, admittedly. But I do know that Atlanta United hasn't exactly lived up to expectations since Pineda took over. Do you think he has the respect of the locker room?
I think it's fine now. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think he's an issue at all, at least not from what I've heard.
So you think he can make that statement and it's not dividing the locker room, it's not dividing the clubhouse?
No, I think for right now it's still I think it's still very early in his tenure there.
Right.
And I think he has, from what he took over, you have to understand, like, Atlanta United was at the top of the mountain. Then they came almost all the way down, and then now I feel like they're at the middle of the mountain. So
Right.
they have improved since he's taken over. And to start the season, he certainly had the team like clicking. So I think he did mention somewhere along the way in the last few weeks, couple weeks, that international break like messed things up. When players come and go, and I mean, these are the rules of soccer, so there's nothing he can do about it. But when you don't have your star players with you, if they're out, on international duties, what do you do? And a lot of times you just have to suck it up and play without him, obviously. I mean, that's, again, how the MLS is designed.
Right.
But I want to say that he kind of alluded to that, saying, like, that's tough. It's really, really tough once you're playing so well and clicking and jiving and vibing, and then all of a sudden, some guys leave, and then you got to put some backups in. And I guess the beauty of soccer is having really good backups. And Brad Guzan's out. I mean, you've got your keeper who's out, your keeper who's like one of the best in the league out. So I think that's also another issue that they're dealing with, and hopefully he'll be back sooner than later.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of fans too calling for more formation changes. This is a fan sentiment I've seen. Again, I'm not as plugged in as you are, but that
Fans
the game,
always think they know what they're talking about.
Yes, exactly. But I've seen I feel like the overwhelming fan sentiment from what I have seen is that the games are still being coached and managed as if Joseph Martinez is here and he is not here. That there's not a premier guy like that, yet the formations and everything around that would still have you believe there is.
Yeah, and I mean that there could be something to that, right? It's funny because now that I think about it, Atlanta United has always had one superstar on its roster.
Right.
And right now, the club really doesn't have like that guy. So that
They
there could
played
be
two of
something
them
to
last
that.
week. Joseph Martinez beat him last week.
That's right. The king. I mean, and he hadn't scored any goals up until he played them.
Yeah.
So for Miami, it's like, okay, we got this guy. He does nothing, and then he plays his former team, and he's angry, and then he wins the game for us. One game. He wins one game for us. One match. Joseph did so much for the city, and he played so well while he was here, and you got to hate the fact that injuries really, really slowed him down.
Right.
It'd be interesting to see if he can ever like come back or look anything like he did a few years ago when he was running this city, absolutely running it. But we'll wait and see. But again, Atlanta United has a chance to right their wrongs on a Wednesday matchup at Mercedes-Benz Stadium against Colorado. You certainly don't want to have 5 losses in a row. That's nothing that I want any part of. Okay, just to be clear.
Yeah, that's bad times all around. I'll try to tune in. Maybe I'll try to get on the Atlanta United bandwagon this year.
There you go. Go to a game. I want to hear your thoughts.
I will go
having
to a game.
Jump and chant, and it's tiring. Like, don't do a workout before you go.
I'll go to one and report back.
There you go. I look forward to that.
Another game a game happening tonight. Lakers Nuggets game 1, Western Conference Finals. Lakers, or let's say Nuggets, I think everyone kind of expected to be here, the number one seed coming in to the playoffs, and then the Lakers were a team that almost no one expected to get this far.
They were a play-in team.
Yeah, and did not look good for most of the season. They got hot down the stretch. So
they did
maybe
not look good most of the season.
Yeah, so maybe it shouldn't be as shocking they're here because they did get hot down the stretch and looked great against the Grizzlies and the Warriors. So now they're here, and I mean they've looked good so far. Tonight's game's in Denver. What are you feeling tonight? Who do you think's going to come out on top in this series?
I have Denver winning the series. I don't have a real feel for who will win tonight, but I do have them moving on to the NBA Finals. So let me start off there. I do love the fact, and I'm not a LeBron James lover. I'm not, Allen or like LBJ.
Yeah.
I don't want to call him like a groupie, but like our LBJ.
If there was a church, a religion of LeBron James,
Yeah.
Allen would be the preacher.
I mean, he truly, he's the LBJ preacher. So I'm not him, but what I do like about this series and what I do like about the Lakers facing off against the Nuggets is the fact that LeBron James, I just feel like he hasn't played this kind of basketball meaningful basketball in the postseason for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, since the bubble, really.
Yeah, and I think the game needs it. And I think more people pay attention, whether they love him or hate him. I think people pay attention simply because he's playing, and the NBA needs that.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that the Lakers are playing tonight. Well, not only because they were a play-in team, and that proves that the play-in tournament works. I like the fact that more eyes will be on that game, and that's a great thing because the NBA sometimes doesn't have the best of fan turnout, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the NBA, this is everything you could have asked for. I guess rather than maybe, instead of the Nuggets having some superstar-laden roster in there, because I think one of the common critiques of the Nuggets is they're just boring. Jokic is great, but as an overall roster,
boring wins games sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. They're the number one seed for a reason. But when you look at it from a basketball standpoint, you have the best team most of the year in the NBA, and then you have a play-in team coming in. So it's like the ultimate sports story. You got your top dog and then the underdog that's not supposed to be there, and all of a sudden they're there. Oh, and by the way, you have a two-time MVP on one side and then the greatest player of the generation on the other. So, I mean, it's good TV. It's great storylines. It's going to be a lot of good basketball. I think this goes at least 6. Probably 7. I just feel like these teams are so...
Again, good for basketball.
Yeah, these teams are so evenly matched, and their style of play matches each other more so than we've seen from either of them so far this postseason. The Lakers played 2 much smaller teams in the Grizzlies and the Warriors in their first 2 rounds. So I'm excited to see, 2 big-body teams. It's probably going to be ugly defensive low-scoring basketball, but I think they're going to be close games late, and you're going to have Jokic on one side making plays and LeBron on one side making plays in the final minute of the game, and we're probably going to get that 6 or 7 times. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
And to be clear, I mean, I guess you asked me about tonight's game. I don't want to say who's going to win because I don't know, but I do think the Nuggets will move on. Do you feel like that too, or do you think that?
I do.
Okay.
I do, and my reasoning is, and I guess maybe don't believe me because I've picked against the Lakers in the first 2 series. But they have beaten both the Grizzlies and the Warriors with their size. They're not going to be able to do that against Denver. They're not going to be able to body them up, not let them in the paint like they were able to in those first 2 series. And when you have 2 teams playing similar styles of basketball, I think the better roster is probably just going to win. And when you look at that Nuggets roster, you don't have a lot of flashy players, but it is good. And Jokic is just unbelievably efficient. So I do think the Nuggets will edge them out. But it wouldn't shock me if the Lakers come out of it. I mean, they have probably the smartest basketball player in the league in LeBron James quarterbacking that offense. So
Who has more experience than him?
Than LeBron James?
Yeah, at this point.
No one.
Yeah.
No one in the game right now, no.
So, I mean, at this time of the year, it's a little bit of experience, a little bit of a hot streak, a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
But I am looking forward to this matchup. I think, like you said, I don't know if it'll go 7, but I definitely am looking for some good big boy basketball to be played in LA and in Denver. And I still can't get over, like, when I think of the Nuggets, I still automatically think of Carmelo Anthony, and I know that's like so old school and kind of showing my age, but that's all I think of. I can't really think of any other player when I think of the Nuggets. I just have to slide that in there. I'm going to give Carmelo a little bit of love. All right, so what's our next?
Next, well, we're staying in the NBA, talking about Doc Rivers getting fired.
My heart.
You a Doc guy?
My whole heart. Yeah, I explained the other day how my love for sports, Brett, started when he was the head coach of the Orlando Magic. And that's what made me want to be a sports reporter, honestly. I mean,
really?
That's where it all started. The
From
Orlando
Doc Rivers.
Magic. Doc Rivers, Tracy McGrady, when he would come out, the Nelly song "I Am Number One," because Tracy McGrady would wear number one. That would come on. Mike Miller. I mean, there were so many great nights spent at that arena in Orlando with me and my mother, Marcia. So I love you,
Shout
Doc
out
Rivers.
Marsha.
And I hate that this happened. However, it kind of needed to happen. You had a really bad
You
track
think so?
record. I mean, do you like his track record when games are on the line? With the MVP?
No, but I watching that series, I didn't feel it was coaching that lost the series, to be honest.
Tell me what did.
James Harden's poor play, the fact that the highest paid guy on the team was your third best player, Tobias Harris, doing absolutely nothing. I don't know. Coaching have been better? Probably. You know, I'm not in the huddle on the sideline, so I don't know all the ins and outs. But from the couch watching from home, watching the Bucks series, I was like, okay, that was some poorly coached. That was some poorly coached basketball, especially there in the final game, not calling the timeout with a minute left. Twice had an opportunity to call a timeout. Both times his team goes down, wasted possession. That was a clear coaching malpractice. I didn't really feel that from Doc at any point in this series. I like Doc. I think in the NBA, a lot of times coaches get the blame when they shouldn't. I mean, it's a players' league. I don't think you would see a move like this in the NFL. I think if this is the NFL, Doc's coming back next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you've got three really great, in my opinion, head coaches on the market right now in Bud and in Monty Williams and in Doc Rivers. And you know this as well as I do, and this is not just basketball. This is any league across the board, whether it be football, basketball, baseball, soccer, you name it, hockey, it happens. There's a recycling of coaches, and it just goes in circles. So,
well, Doc's been on how many teams himself?
Yeah. Well, that's exactly right. So, with all that being said, these three men, I expect them to be coaching next season. They're not going to just be sitting there. And you know that leads me to my next thing is would you have liked one of these guys to be the Hawks head coach?
Oh, I think Doc would have been the perfect fit in Atlanta because even if you're of your mindset where he can't win meaningful, he can't win the big one. He can't get you into the finals. But I think he can get you over that hump, which is kind of what the Hawks are needing again. Yes, they were in the Eastern Conference Finals a few years ago. They did technically make the playoffs this year. But, I mean, it was because of the play-in, and did anyone think they had a snowball's chance in hell in that first series? No. I think a guy like Doc could kind of push this team over the hump, get them to being a contender. Could he win the final? I don't know. But I think he could have the Hawks back in that conversation, and this franchise needs to take that step forward again.
I mean, obviously, these are big what-if scenarios because Quinn Snyder is just now.
Yeah. I have faith in Quinn Snyder. I do.
So do I. I think that the Hawks hired a great coach, a solid coach who has a proven record. With Salt Lake, he did a heck of a job there. So I do think he will turn things around. And as a matter of fact, Trae Young said it during his final press conference. He's like, the future is Quinn Snyder, and I cannot wait. And he's going to bring this city a ring. And I have not heard Trae say that since he's been here about any of his coaches. And he said it about Quinn Snyder. So I do believe that I'm going to take Trae's word for that because he knows him better than me.
Yes, I would rather have Quinn than Doc. I want to just go out there and say,
but this I'm just saying, it's interesting, right?
Hypothetical,
The Hawks could have waited. They didn't want to wait. They could have just named an interim and then waited to see, if any of these things would come to fruition after the season and after postseason. But here we are again with three really, really great coaches who are in need of a job. And I have no doubt that, again, the recycling will occur, and that's exactly what's going to happen. They'll be coaching somewhere else, especially Monty Williams. I mean, I think he did such a good job with the Suns.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, this is the name of the game, right? You don't do a good job, you get fired, and now quicker than ever.
Yeah, short leash in the NBA. Very short leash.
All right, Brett, what are you thinking about today? What's on your mind? What's bothering you? What's not bothering you? What's making you happy today?
What's making me happy? I'm excited to see the lottery tonight, NBA lottery.
Okay.
It's interesting because the future won't be decided tonight. The players aren't drafted tonight, but I do I want to see a little madness. You have the top teams, the bottom teams, your Rockets. I'm not sure the other two teams up there with them, with the best odds to land that number 1 pick. But I would like to see someone who, way down the list, way down with the smallest odds land it, just to throw a wrench in things, just to cause a little chaos. Someone like the Mavs who kind of tank their way out of the playoffs just to get in on the sweepstakes. They have like a 3% chance at the number 1 overall pick. That'd just be really funny.
I don't know your NBA team because, obviously Nashville, your love for Nashville never ends. But so where is your alliance when it comes to basketball?
A little down the road, Memphis Grizzlies.
Okay.
Staying in the home state. I don't have a dog in the fight. So I just kind of want to see something fun happen tonight, really. It'd be boring if one of the teams that we expect to get the number 1 overall pick gets the number 1 overall pick. I want to see something more interesting happen.
Well, I like that you're with basketball and you're sticking with basketball. And you're going to be watching the Lakers-Nuggets game tonight, I'm assuming?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. I don't really have much on my mind tonight, which is very odd because that doesn't happen very frequently.
It doesn't. What have you been on today?
I know. I feel like I would be lying to you if I said I've been thinking about something heavily. But I am thinking about the fact that I feel like I'm ready for football to come back. I'm getting an itch, okay? And I feel like it needs to come back sooner than later. So we still have some months to go. And I think the excitement of Matt Ryan being in the booth and talking about it yesterday and talking about Georgia getting the number 1 recruit, I think my mindset yesterday was all football. And then today there was not much football news. And I thought, oh, I'm missing it. I really, really am. So I think that if I had to say anything, I've already forgotten about basketball, Brett, even though we're knee deep into it right now.
Yeah, we're in the most important time of the year.
And, baseball and all, there's so many great sports happening right now, but my concentration and my focus is always on football. And I'm looking forward to seeing probably more so what the Falcons have in store for us than the Dogs, because if we learned anything last season and the season before, you're not going to love me saying this, but I'm going to say it. The Dogs can win with or without a quarterback. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But for the Falcons, I just am looking forward to seeing what it's going to look like with Bijan Robinson and Desmond Ridder at the helm, truly, making the decisions on the field. I think that they might actually win maybe 8 or 9 games this year.
I think they could be good. It's weird because it would not surprise me if you told me this team finishes 5-12. It also wouldn't surprise me if you told me they won 10 games. There's such a wide range of outcomes here that all seem very realistic. So, yeah, it's going to be a very exciting year to see what the hell happens in Atlanta.
I just hate the fact that – and wait, so we're clear here. Are the Titans your team?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you kind of like Arthur Smith?
I do. Yeah, no, I really like Arthur.
You respected what he was basically like a ball boy.
Yeah, no.
With the Titans, and he worked his way all the way up.
He climbed his way up, and he didn't have to do that. His dad is the founder or CEO of FedEx or whatever, so he doesn't have to do a thing, and he could be living a cushy, nice, comfortable lifestyle. But he grinded in Tennessee, when it got up to a tight ends coach and the offensive coordinator, and now he's a head coach here in Atlanta. So, yeah, a lot of respect for him.
Okay, so you don't mind keeping up with the Falcons then?
No, I like the Falcons.
Okay, I love that. Well, I think that's it for us, right?
Yeah, no, we're about out of time, yeah.
Every time we're on here, I think we're only going to talk for 10 minutes, and,
I know.
And we go for 30. I mean, here we are. There's nothing better to talk about, Brett.
No, nothing better than sports.
All right, have a good night, guys. Thanks for listening, watching, whatever you're doing.
We'll see you tomorrow.